I've spent the last 30 days seeing how fast LEGO cars can go using 3 interesting methods of propulsion. Firstly, I tried using 100% LEGO with LEGO motors. Secondly, I tried using rocket motors made for super fast model rockets. And thirdly, I took a huge brushless motor from an RC car and stuck it on a LEGO chassis. So I've been putting these cars against each other in a sort of LEGO land speed record competition to see which is fastest. What are the rules? Well, 1, the cars need to be made of LEGO, of course. And 2, I haven't really got any other rules. So what eye-watering velocities could I achieve? And could I build LEGO cars that could survive being propelled by some seriously powerful motors and even rocket engines? First up, I wanted to start with the absolute most basic LEGO motor you can get. So I made a simple car with this clockwork motor which contains a mechanism that stores potential energy in an internal spring, which is released once you've pulled the car back and let it go. If you're wondering how we're recording the speed, I've got this GPS on here. And if you're wondering why it is a bit scratched up, that's because it fell off my jet car at 118 miles an hour, if you remember from that video. I don't think we're going to get that sort of speed out of these LEGO cars, but let's see how bad it is and then make it faster. Well, that was pathetic. Well, that was an eye-watering 4 kilometers an hour. Okay, so that was pretty rubbish, so how about doubling the power by using 2 of these motors, one driving the front wheels and one driving the rear wheels. So that was 2 kilometers an hour faster. Now I wanted to see what would happen if I increased the diameter of the wheels, as theoretically for every turn of the axle, the larger wheel should travel further. But would it still rotate the wheels at the same speed? Well, that was only 3 kilometers an hour. The car had a harder time accelerating due to there not being enough torque to get the wheels up to speed. So the wind-up car achieved 6 kilometers an hour, which isn't very impressive. So I thought it was time to start playing around with LEGO electric motors. I found a single LEGO Power Functions motor and battery box and built a car with these electronics using gears to connect the motor to the wheels. However, using this particular 1-to-1 gear ratio didn't improve on the fastest speed seen so far. Back to 4 kilometers an hour. This wasn't a problem though, as I could simply pop off the gears and switch the ratio to use a much smaller cog on the drive shaft to get some higher RPMs from the wheels, and then I could try again. Increasing the gear ratio saw the car run out of torque, which was a similar problem as seen earlier with the larger wheels. 6 kilometers an hour again. So what I decided to do next was to rather radically multiply the total torque of the vehicle by combining lots of motors together. So if I power all of these up, if I'm correct, they should all spin the same way. Right, let's hope this works, otherwise it's going to explode. Hey! That works really well. Okay, I'll have to watch these cables don't get eaten by the gears. Oh yeah! Look at all that horsepower. Now I had an engine of sorts assembled, I could start building a car around it. But would the net gains from the added horsepower from these motors offset the mass of the heavier car? As expected, the car was just as fast as the previous 1-to-1 gear ratioed single motor car, which was actually a good sign because it meant that I hadn't lost that much in mechanical resistance. So next I quickly worked on getting the axle rotation speed up as much as possible through gearing up the output. I also now switched to using larger wheels as I had enough torque to turn them quickly, and really if you think about it, this is just another way of gearing up the car. Now to find a proper road with a smooth surface and attempt to break my personal land speed record LEGO PB. "10 kilometers an hour there. I feel a bit silly playing with LEGO in public. It was quick, but also a little limited in its control, as it didn't have any steering. Oh. The car achieved 12 kilometers an hour on that last run, which was a bit underwhelming, but that was now the speed to beat. I could have kept working on this and tried to optimize it, but instead of doing that, I thought maybe it was time for something a lot more radical, using one of my favorite things, a rocket engine. Why not do a Craig Breedlove and do away with the complexities of wheel-driven cars by just switching to pure thrust-driven cars and see how we get on with that instead. These rocket engines, unlike the Lego electric motors, have a ridiculous power to weight ratio, meaning the challenge here would be to build a car that would remain stable enough to harness this raw power. I started to design some custom Lego parts that could be 3D printed, which would hold the motor in place, but I decided in the end it would be quicker and more versatile, and probably more reliable if I just mounted the engines using hot glue. I know this is probably a crime to some Lego fans, so I'm truly sorry about this. As you can probably tell, I'm a little far away from the Bonneville salt flats, and probably shouldn't be setting off rockets on a public road, so I decided to use the car park again. The first low power motor worked really well, but only achieved a somewhat pathetic 10 kilometers an hour, 2 kilometers an hour slower than the current electric record holder. Obviously I needed some more power, so I thought I'd try a larger motor that would produce more thrust. These engines are categorized by letters. The first engine I tried is classed as a half-size A engine with about 800 grams of peak thrust. The second engine is classed as a C motor that produces a mighty 1.5 kilograms of thrust, so almost twice as much, but it has a slightly longer burn time, and I think going straight to a C motor in hindsight was a bit of a jump too far, as it produced some spectacular results.
Well, that was a bit faster than I was expecting. I think the burn time of that engine was a bit too much. Well, this is a scene of devastation. 37 kilometers an hour though. I mean, I'm not sure if that counts, but that's pretty fast. But that's a new record. If only we can get the car to survive.
Okay, we clearly had the potential speed here, so the question now was, could I build a more stable car that could handle the slightly uneven concrete? I made a longer chassis, which had about twice the mass of the previous rocket car, and also angled it so that I had a downwards rake angle. I added some steering with the help of, again, some more Lego electronics to help gain a bit more control over the car's lateral direction, although the precision of this steering left a little to be desired.
So that was 38 kilometers an hour. Still didn't survive the end of the run, unfortunately, but we're getting a bit closer. I think next we should tackle the smoothness of this track. Oh, it's not really a track, it's a car park, because this really isn't ideal doing this here, but it's the only option I have right now.
Taking inspiration from Hot Wheels, I got some foam board and folded up the sides to make a smooth, bordered track for the car to run on. Instead of using a heavy and bulky GPS to measure the speed on these tests, I instead decided to use a reference board and measure the time it took for the cars to travel this known distance and calculate the velocities in this way. This meant that I could build much smaller and lighter cars than before. To begin with, I started by using the small half-size A motor.
3, 2, 1.
I worked out the average speed of this car was about 38.7 kilometers an hour. So now the obvious question was, what happens if you increase the power by sticking the much larger C motor on this same tiny car?
Not really sure where the car's just gone.
For now, I thought that I'd learnt enough with these rocket cars, so now I wanted to return to wheel-driven cars and see what sort of speeds we could achieve if I used much more powerful electronics than those Lego electronics. Before that though, it's time to thank my sponsor Brilliant, who have supported this video. If you've ever wanted to learn more about engineering principles such as those in this video, Brilliant will give you the skills you need. As you might have seen from my videos, I personally find the most effective way to learn is through a visual, hands-on approach. Engaging interactive learning has been proven to be 6 times more effective than passive learning, for example watching a lecture video online, and in my opinion, Brilliant.org is the best way to learn maths and computer science interactively using this method. Brilliant has thousands of lessons from foundational and advanced maths to mechanical engineering, data science, neural networks and more, with new lessons added monthly. I've particularly enjoyed going through the course on scientific thinking, as as it's designed in such a way to warm up your brain for deeper learning about complex topics through getting you to solve puzzles on a variety of relatable subjects such as heat and basic mechanics, among lots of other things. It's super hands-on and I really enjoy learning like this as it actively encourages me to explore new topics that I might have previously ignored in the past. To try everything that Brilliant has to offer free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/ProjectAir or click the link in the description. The first 200 of you will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription. Thanks very much, Brilliant, for helping to make this video, and now on with the final Lego car. I removed the motor and electronics from this Armour Limitless RC car that you might recognise from my videos last year, where I investigated how fast I could build a model car using a microjet turbine made for RC planes. To give you an idea of the difference between one of these brushless motors and the Lego motors used on the first cars in this video, this single motor, when combined with a 6-cell battery, can accelerate the Limitless to almost 160 kilometers an hour in just a few seconds, which is quite the contrast from our 12-kilometer-an-hour Lego car from earlier. If you do the sums, this motor has about 3.5 horsepower, so it's the equivalent of about 310 Lego motors put together. Obviously, now my real challenge here was harnessing the power of this motor using only Lego bricks.
I can smell melted plastic. That's melted in like 5 seconds.
As Lego doesn't make metal bearings, I decided it was time to have a go at making some custom Lego bricks that would hold some. Next, I built a chassis and cable tied the motor on top and gave everything a test run to see if it would explode again.
That has got some power. That's really nice and secure though, so that's good.
Now I added steering to the front of the car and hooked this up to the original servo from the Limitless, which gave me a nice smooth amount of control over the front axles, unlike I'd had previously with the Lego power functions.
I think this thing's going to fall apart straight away. It's got way too much power, but hopefully we get some sort of speed out of it before it does. Whoa!
There I got up to a peak speed of 42 kilometers an hour.
Now that's a proper RC car.
So success. Now it's time to turn the power up slightly and go again. Could I improve on this even more, or would everything go wrong as usual? I think here the chassis twisted as I accelerated, making the car lose control and swerve into the verge. It seems that the Lego parts had too much give, making them pretty unsuited to dealing with the high loads acting on this car.
Well, after another spectacular crash, I think that's it for this project.
So we have a winner for our Lego Land Speed Records challenge. The nature of Lego bricks in holding themselves together while being propelled down a road at high speeds and rattling around all over the place, they don't really lend themselves to this kind of application. I think I cheated a bit too much really by the end, using all of those cable ties and things, but maybe you could try this challenge and see if you can beat my record. I might just say though, I'm not responsible for you playing around with rocket engines, but maybe there's a simpler way of beating the record with gravity. Building a rather heavy car and having it just pulled down a hill by gravity is one thing I wanted to try in this video but didn't really have time to do. So yes, maybe you could try something like that. Or you could just throw the car off a cliff. But maybe that's a rule I should implement. You have to have a car with 4 wheels that touch the ground at all times. Anyway, if you like this video and want to see more catastrophic failures and things going wrong at high speed, then perhaps you should watch this video next, as it's probably going to have some of that in it. Yes, thanks very much for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one. See you later.